Alright, so I'm going to be teaching you today how to put animations into Unity. Now, I'll be trying to make this quick because this is a fairly long topic, but also try and get as much detail as I can. If you have any questions, again, Discord or the comment section of the YouTube video. I'm pretty sure that is open. So the first thing you need to do is open up Unity. I already got ahead before this was from a video I was trying to do before. I think I yelled. I messed with the microphone. So in here, we're going to be learning how to use a Unity animation, which is an animation made purely in Unity. So I'm going to create a sphere. Sorry if this is a little too quick for you, but I'm just trying to get all the ideas across. Hopefully you can follow along based on what I'm doing. Alright, I'm just going to position this better for the camera. There we are. Now, when we want to add a animation to an object, we need to add component and find the animator. The animator is a component that controls all animations. Now, the animator has two major components which we need to worry about. The controller, which is the overall, map of of all the animations and how they're all related to one another, such as an idle animation in the middle and various animations, various animations that can be triggered from the idle animation. Such as, jumping, crouching, reloading, that kind of thing. So the other one, the avatar, is related to rigging. Now, rigging is a part of 3D modeling, which involves giving a kind of mechanical skeleton to your object. It gives various joints so that it doesn't bend like a hose. Instead, it bends like a limb. If you don't use rigging, you have to move each vertex and edge on its own, changing the shape in its entirety, whereas a rig merely bends it. A good example would be, I suppose, I also can't really think of an example right now. Sorry about that. But the avatar involves that rig. It involves adapting the rig to the Unity. So now we have the animator in there. We need to create a animator controller right over here. Now the animator controller, which I'll be calling sphere bounce. The animator controller is a component that fits right into here in the animator. The animator controller itself, when you double click it, it creates this map. The map is fairly cut and dry. The entry is when the game starts. Any state, I'm pretty sure, is just as cut and dry as you can get. And exit, which I believe would be the ending of the scene overall. Again, I haven't really studied these two exactly, but this one is definitely important. As soon as you introduce any animation into here, the entry immediately reacts and connects to the first one you put in, which is why the first one should be middling, if not nothing at all. Just a blank slate for you to move to other important animations with triggers. So for this ball, we're going to create a new animation right down here. This animation I'll be calling Sproing. You know what? Let's call it Bounce. Now when you add this animation to it, it doesn't seem like anything happens, but when you go into the animator, it's added. Now, when we apply the animation, I'm going to be setting a loop time in order for it to be repeating over and over again. But overall, this animation will trigger. Won't re-trigger, but it'll be active on. This is the default state. This is what this animation that will be running, which may not have to be anything, but I'll be showing you how you can turn this into something, and that will be playing immediately upon loading the game. Sorry if my descriptions are just terrible. So with the animation applied to the controller, which is applied to the animator component, we can go straight to double-clicking bounce and clicking the ball. This is where we create the bounce animation. Right now we can add a property which can involve anything regarding the actual nature of the sphere. But for now, I'll also be showing you an example of position. And here we can change its nature and add keyframes. And as you can see, there is a steady animation here. One second, that was at. Let's call this. No, there. We'll call this 1. Call this 4. No, wait. We'll call this 4. At 1. You know what? We'll set that down to 1. Add keyframe. And set that to 4. Add keyframe. Now it ends the exact same way as it begins, even though we kind of muck around with the numbers. Now this is a whole animation made as is, and since it occurs directly from entry, and we have the animation set on loop, let's see what happens. There we are. As you can see, it is moving on its own accord. And from here, we can add this. This is a code I created which calls out the animation I'm just going to rename this to up, down. There we go. Now this next part involves adding a triggered animation to transition between the standard and the new one. So we'll need to create a new animation. Call this one Squish. And apply it to the sphere. Oh, wait. Yeah, apply it to the sphere. There we go. Sorry for the delay. Well, when you add a new animation into the new object, it appears in the animator window, which I forgot to tell you. You go to window, go to animation and animator, and this window should open. Or rather, when you double click the controller, it should open. Now there are a number of different ways to handle this, but for now we'll be taking the transition, make transition, to squish, then make transition back. This controls the transition itself between the looping animation, which, as you can see, just repeats itself, especially when it's applied to the other one. And there are different ways to handle the actual transition of it. Now, sorry for the constant delays. I'll try to make this faster. When you animate the squish, it keeps doing that. Come on. Come on. Sorry if this is a big bit of a cluster F right now. Come on. Come on. Well, anyways, what was it? Well, in any case, I'll try to show you a bit more of what I can. 1 second. God, it's been 13 minutes already. Okay. Now, in order to trigger it, we need to add a parameter. We need, in parameters, they could be set as a float, an integer, a bool, or a trigger. I personally use trigger, because that's the simplest way to remember. Now, let's call this one ball. Now, when it goes from bounce to squish, the conditions, you need to add the condition, which in this case would automatically be ball. And due to the fact that it needs to transfer into here and then back, it cannot have a exit time. However, on the way back, it can have an exit time with no condition. The layers, I'm pretty sure, function like anything else. I haven't really worked with them yet. So next, I'll need to figure out what to do with the new animation. But for now, I'll just be adding the script. Now, the script requires the animator. to be clicked and dragged into here based on how I wrote it. Now, this animator calls forth this script calls forth the animator, which I called boy, which gets triggered down here. This will be required for later. But for now, we have set trigger, and the trigger should be what we named in here, which I called fall. Again, oh, okay, right. So in this window, you can go back and forth between any of the animations. Sorry about the delay. I guess I'm learning right along with you. I should have known this. I spent way too long experimenting up until this point, so I guess a bit turned around. So you can go between any of the clips in here. Right now, I've assigned squish, add property, transform, scale, and I'll set a new keyframe right here, and at that keyframe I will set the scale to 2 and 2. I'll remove these. And as you can see, it just squishes. There we go. And back to the code. When you hit the space bar, based on the code I put in, it should activate the animator and call in the animation, which is triggered by the ball keyword. And uses the squish animation in here. It should. So let's see what happens. There we go. I'm going to hit the space bar, and it is stopping to engage the squish animation, which you can control and stretch out like so. Mostly controlling the transition from one animation to the next. Allowing you to have more control over the situation. Now the next part I hope will be quicker than this. The next part involves Maya. And right in here I've loaded my gun, which sounds wrong in a certain context, but we know what our last project was. Now, when we have our gun model, we need to transfer over from modeling to animation. This will give us the proper equipment in order to operate an animation, as well as in here, which has all the involvements of operating all the tools involving keyframes. Now, when you have your object selected, you should have a bar down here. If you don't, I don't remember how I got mine up, but it's up every time I use this program now. So I may have to look that up and put it in the comments of Discord. Mostly because I just don't want to drag this out any further. So you select your gun, your model, and down here you need to set a bunch of different frames. So for here, I set up the first keyframe, just a standard position for the gun. Then, in number 4, I rotated the gun and dragged it back here, and then I clicked set keyframe and set the keyframe. Because of this, the gun was able to be moved back. It was able to be moved on its own by Maya and its programming. Then I set it into another position and reset it to its original position in order for it to properly loop. Now, notice that not showing you this is going to be a bit dangerous. So I will reluctantly delete, not the model, I'll reluctantly delete the keyframes involved. Okay, that's not really working. Delete. There we go. So here's the gun. Now, in order to set its position here, we need its position, its rotation, all that. You need to set key, which sets a keyframe right here with all of its parameters. Then over here, I rotate the gun. I try and do this in smooth animation, so I hold down the J key. Then I move it back, and then I set another key. There we go. A smooth animation. Down here, I'll move this to 7 to slow it down. Angle the gun down, lower it, and then set the keyframe. Now we know it does this. And the gun model's original position at 1 was all zeros, as well as the rotation. Don't know why that's a -0. That honestly makes no real sense. So at 10, we set rotation to 0. The translation, 0 and 0. And then set keyframe. Now, when you click down here, it plays it forward. As you can see, it goes by in the blink of an eye. I haven't the foggiest idea on how to control the frame rate on this. This is something I should be worrying about later. I won't worry about that. You can probably find other better information later, but for now, this animation allows us to simulate the recoil of a gun. Now, you need to go to File, Export Selection with just your gun selected, just the gun model, and go to Export Selection and find the assets you want to upload into. I created a models folder. I already have a gun model and the original gun animation in here. So I don't really need to show you any of that. That will be for later. And I'm not going to export this again in either way, but I will be showing you up to the point where you can do that. So next, you need to export the actual animation. Now the animation has to be exported separately because the only model you'll be uploading is a reference to the original model. That way there won't be any distortions with any shape, position, or anything like that. It's like trying to animate a line, setting the animation, the movements, and proportions of a lion, and trying to apply that to a human model. It's going to look freaky. It's not really going to work. So you need the exact same model from the animation and the animation separate if you want to include them both in Unity. Then you can apply the animation to the model in a way that I will be showing you. So you select the gun, and then all the keyframes involved with it are shown down here. So you just select, hold down Shift, hold down Shift, and drag it along. The red line is fine, it's supposed to be doing that. And select the whole bar. Go to File, Export Selection, to the same area, and Assets, Models, right? I already have the animation in here, and it's best to have a XPX export. Now, next thing you need to do is go along here and find the animation tab. You need to click animation, so you're sure that it's checked. Click Bake Animation, and select all the frames you want to have in there. Mine ends at 10, so I'll set it up at 11. That way we can have all the frames involved. Then you just need to name it, and it's already in there, so I don't need to do this. So then click Export Selection. You can of course have embedded media, all that, and I'm not going to do that. So next, I'm not going to save this. I already had a good animation going, and get back into here. Now I already have the model set up. So this is a trick I found out the hard way. Now, when you load the gun model, I'll load in the hierarchy, so it's set at all zeros, as it should be. Like so. And add component, animator, gun animation, bang, which is the animation itself, and I'll create the animator controller. Name this gun animation, and put the gun animation into the animator controller right there, and put the bang in the gun. Now in the gun, bang should be the default state. However, I will instead create... Oh. Okay, I guess an empty state is able to be created from here anyway, so I was always curious about that. And you can set this as the layer default state. I don't know what those three mean, but it works. Make transition to bang and back. And in parameters, you can set up a trigger I call recoil. And with bang, you can set up the condition remove exit time, and go back to the scene, and even though the bounce script is applied to here, I will also apply it to the gun, as well as this other script here I call fire. Both of these will... Actually, I'll get rid of fire. It requires something else that's more complicated. So I take the animator and apply it to the bounce script, and let's load. by pressing the up key, I am creating the recoil based on the relative position of where it was before. At all zeros, where the gun was before. Now, the animation plays relative to the exact center of whatever its parent is, and if it's being played off the gun without the gun model having any parents, it's being applied to the entire game as a whole in terms of position. So, if I decide to move the gun somewhere else and play it again, the gun automatically goes straight there to all the zeros and plays the animation before bouncing back. If this had an animation before it, sorry if the ball is confusing. The squish still works, but so long as the animation is set so long as the object has no parent, the animation will always be set to the absolute zero of its location. So instead, I'll be setting the gun to the absolute zero, creating an empty object I will call gun holder. Move this up here, and the gun holder will be set at 0, 0, and 0. The exact spot as the handgun. The gun will be dragged into the gun holder, so it is the exact center of the gun holder. Now, as you can see, it's still doing the exact same thing, but when I move the gun holder, it is repeating itself relative to the center of its parent, the gun holder. So if the gun is moved from the center of the gun holder, which is well, we'll see how that works. There we go. The gun, which is here, is relative to the center of the gun holder, which is over here. So it'll always bounce back to the absolute zero of all of its positions, as well as the rotation and scale, meaning it will shrink and grow depending on what you've already done to it and what the rotation and scale was in the animation. It's meaning it could spin, stretch, grow, shrink, any kind of a comfortable deformation as well as its movement. So it's always important to have proper positioning by putting inside something that you can control the position of. And there you go. That's animation. I suppose I should go into much more detail about the bounce script I put into both of them. With the gun, I created a separate key, which input, key down, key code, up arrow. Whereas with the space bar, it affected only the ball because that triggered the ball's squishing animation. Meanwhile, with the up arrow, it only triggered the recoil animation with the gun. This script was applied to both objects, and yet it had completely different results based on how it was coded. Now, there are other matters to include, but these are the two big ones. Creating an animation in Unity, the ball, and creating an object in Maya, an animation in Maya, and properly transferring it into Unity with the gun. Alright, I hope this has been useful. If you have any questions, so do I. And I hope this has been informative. You can go ahead and experiment from here. You can look up more information, but I hope this is a good head start for you. Right then. Have a good day.